My stepchildren said they answer only to their biological parents. So I changed the locks, canceled every privilege in my name, and told their father pickup was tonight. No one argued. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Read It. What I used to believe that love and patience could win over anyone, especially kids. That if you just showed up consistently and treated children with kindness, they'd eventually come around. I learned the hard way that some people, even kids, will take your kindness for weakness and your generosity for granted. My name is Mark. I'm 42. I've been married to my wife Jessica for 3 years now. This story is about the moment I finally stood up for myself and my family. Why? Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is set boundaries that actually mean something. When Jessica and I got married, we became a blended family. I brought my 2 kids from my previous marriage, Emma, who's 10, and Tyler, who's 8. Jessica brought her 2 kids from her first marriage, Mason, who's 16, and Chloe, who's 14. Their biological father, David, lives about 20 minutes away and has them every other weekend. From day one, I tried to be the stepdad I wished I'd had growing up. I included Mason and Chloe in everything: family game nights, vacation planning, and even asking their input on house rules. I paid for their school supplies, sports equipment, and took them to practices, just like I did for Emma and Tyler. But here's the thing about respect. You can't force it, and you can't buy it. The first red flag came about 6 months after we all moved in together. I asked Mason to help carry groceries in from the car, simple request, right? He looked me dead in the eye and said, "You're not my dad. I don't have to listen to you." Jessica overheard and told him to help anyway, which he did. But with this attitude that made it clear, he was only doing it because his mom said so, not because he respected me as an adult in the house. I let it slide. He's adjusting. Told myself, this is hard for him too. But it didn't get better. Got worse. Mason and Chloe developed this pattern of selective hearing. They'd respond immediately when Jessica asked them to do something. But when I made the same request, they'd act like I hadn't spoken, or they look at me with this blank stare and say, "I'll wait for Mom to tell me." The breaking points started building in small moments, like when I had cooked dinner for everyone, and Mason would make a show of asking Jessica if it was okay to eat what I'd made, or when Chloe would leave messes in common areas. And when I asked her to clean up, she'd say my mom didn't tell me to. Then it started affecting my own kids. Emma came to me crying one day because Mason had taken her art supplies without asking. When she asked for them back, he told her, "Your dad doesn't make the rules here. Only real parents do." Real parents. Tyler started asking me why Mason and Chloe didn't have to listen to me like he did. How do you explain to an 8-year-old that some kids in the house follow different rules based on whose DNA they share? I talked to Jessica about it multiple times. She'd have conversations with Mason and Chloe. They'd apologize, and things would be okay for a few days. Then we'd be right back to the same pattern. They're still adjusting. Jessica would say their father fills their heads with ideas about loyalty and biological family. Just give it more time. Time wasn't fixing anything. It was making things worse because Mason and Chloe were learning. They could disrespect me without real consequences. The incident that changed everything happened on a Thursday night in February. I'd had a long day at work. I came home to find Tyler in his room crying. When I asked what was wrong, he told me that Mason had broken his favorite toy, a model airplane we built together. And when Tyler got upset, Mason said, "Tell your dad to buy you a new one. That's all he's good for." Anyway, I found Mason in the living room playing video games like nothing had happened. "Mason," I said, "we need to talk about what happened with Tyler Airplane." He didn't even pause his game. "I don't know what you're talking about. You broke his model airplane, the one we built together." He shrugged. "Accidents happen. This wasn't an accident. Tyler said you threw it against the wall when he wouldn't let you use his gaming headset." Mason finally looked at me, but his expression was pure defiance. "Tyler is lying. And even if he wasn't, you're not my dad. I don't have to explain anything to you. You're living in my house," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "You're eating food I buy, using electricity I pay for, and you just broke something that belongs to my son. You absolutely do owe me an explanation." He laughed. "Your house. Mom pays rent too. Your son, Tyler, is not even related to me. And you're just Mom's husband. You're not my parent. You don't make my rules, and I don't answer to you." Something snapped inside me. Not anger exactly, but this cold clarity. This kid had just told me exactly where I stood in his eyes. It wasn't just disrespectful, it was cruel. But instead of yelling, I nodded. I said, "I hear you loud and clear." I walked away and went to my home office. I pulled out my laptop and started making a list of everything in the house. That was in my name, or that I paid for: the mortgage, the utilities, the internet cable, the family cell phone plan that included Mason, and Chloe's phones, the car insurance that covered Jessica's car. The one she drove Mason and Chloe around in the gym membership, the streaming services, even the gaming console Mason had been playing on. Then I started making phone calls, called my cell phone provider, and removed Mason and Chloe lines from our family plan. I called the cable company and scheduled a disconnection for the next day. I called the internet provider and did the same. I changed the password on all the streaming accounts. Jessica found me in the office around 10 p.m. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Mason made it very clear tonight that I am not his parent, and he doesn't answer to me," I said, without looking up from my computer. "So, I'm making sure he doesn't have to worry about accepting anything from someone who isn't his parent." Her face went pale. "Mark, what did you do?" "I'm removing Mason and Chloe from everything that's in my name or that I pay for. Their phones are already disconnected. Internet and cable get shut off tomorrow. I'm also going to need David's address because I'll be dropping off their belongings this weekend." "You can't be serious." I looked at her then. "Jessica, your son just told me I'm nothing more than your husband, that I have no authority in my own house, that my children don't matter because they're not related to him. He's right that I'm not his parent. But that means I'm not responsible for him either. They're kids, Mark. They're still learning." "No," I interrupted. "Emma and Tyler are kids, and they've learned to be respectful. Mason is 16. He's old enough to drive, old enough to have a job, old enough to understand consequences. If he wants to act like I don't exist, then as far as privileges go, I won't exist." I spent the next day implementing my plan. I packed up Mason and Chloe's belongings, clothes, electronics, personal items, and loaded them into my truck. I changed the locks on the house and had new keys made for Jessica, Emma, Tyler, and myself. When Jessica, Mason, and Chloe came home that afternoon and couldn't get in, called me. "Mark," Jessica said. When I answered, "We can't get in the house." I changed the locks. I said calmly, "Mason and Chloe, things are packed and ready to go to David's. You can't kick out my children. I'm not kicking them out because they are your children. I'm removing them because they've made it clear. They don't recognize me as having any authority in my own home. People who don't respect the homeowner don't get to live in the home." There was silence on the other end. "I'll be home in 20 minutes. I continued. "David can pick them up then, or you can drive them over. They're not coming back in this house until they can treat me with basic respect." When I got home, David was already there. Jessica had called him, and he'd come straight over. David said when he saw me, "This seems pretty extreme over some teenage attitude." I looked at him steadily. "David, if your son told you that you weren't his parent, that he didn't have to listen to you, and that your children didn't matter to him, what would you do?" David was quiet for a moment. "I'd probably want to teach him a lesson. That's all I'm doing. Teaching a lesson about respect and consequences." I turned to Mason and Chloe, who were standing next to Jessica's car, looking stunned. "I want you both to understand something," I said. "This isn't about me being mean or petty. This is about respect. You've told me in words and actions that I'm not your parent. You don't answer to me. I accept that parents provide for their children. If I'm not your parents, then I'm not obligated to provide for you." Mason, for the first time since I'd known him, looked uncertain. "You're really going to make us leave? You told me I had no authority over you in my own house." "You were right, but authority and responsibility go together. No authority means no responsibility." Chloe started crying then. "But where will we go?" "To your dad's?" I said gently. "He's your parent. I'm just your mom's husband, remember." I helped David load their things into his car as they were getting ready to leave. Mason looked at me. "What if we want to come back? Then you'll need to decide if you can treat me with the same respect you'd show your father. Because that's what I am in this house. A father figure who deserves basic respect." They left with David that night. Jessica was furious with me at first. We had some very difficult conversations over the next few days. She accused me of being cruel, of giving up on our kids, putting my ego before our family. But I held firm. "Jessica, I love you. I want to love your kids, but I can't love people who actively disrespect me and hurt my children. Mason and Chloe need to learn that actions have consequences, and the consequence of rejecting my authority is losing my support." Emma and Tyler, meanwhile, were different kids. Tension in the house disappeared overnight. They did their homework without being asked, helped with chores without attitude, and for the first time in months, they seemed relaxed in their own home. After a week, David called me. "Mason and Chloe want to come back," he said. "They've been asking every day." "What do you think?" I asked. "I think they learned something," David said. "Mason, especially. He's been quieter, more thoughtful. I think he realized that respect isn't optional in a household. Chloe, she misses her mom. She asked me to tell you she's sorry for being rude." I talked it over with Jessica. We decided to let them come back, but with clear expectations. When Mason and Chloe returned, I sat them down for a conversation. "Before you move back in," I said, "I need to know that you understand the rules of this house. I'm not asking you to call me dad or to love me like you love your father, but I'm asking you to treat me with the same respect you'd show any adult who's taking care of you. Mason nodded. I get it. And I'm sorry about what I said about Tyler and the airplane thing that was messed up. I'm sorry for being disrespectful, Chloe added quietly. I didn't realize how much you'd do for us until it was gone. It wasn't perfect immediately. There were still moments of tension, still times when old patterns tried to resurface. Something fundamental had changed. Mason and Chloe had learned that respect isn't just something you give to people you're related to. It's something you give to people who care for you. 6 months later, Mason came to me when he was struggling with a math problem, instead of waiting for Jessica to get home from work. Chloe started saying, "Thank you when I drove her to soccer practice. Small things. They mattered." The real test came about a year later when Mason wanted to go to a concert with friends. He came to me and Jessica together and asked for permission when Jessica said yes, but I expressed some concerns about the venue and the crowd. Mason didn't dismiss me or say he didn't have to listen to me. Instead, he addressed my concerns seriously and worked with me to come up with a compromise that made everyone comfortable. That's when I knew we'd truly become a family. Looking back, I don't regret changing those locks. Some people called it extreme, but sometimes extreme situations require clear responses. Mason and Chloe needed to learn that you can't have the benefits of being part of a family without the responsibility of treating all family members with respect. My marriage with Jessica is stronger now too. She saw that I wasn't willing to be a doormat, but I also wasn't willing to give up on her kids. I was willing to fight for a relationship built on mutual respect rather than one-sided obligation. Emma and Tyler learned something important too. That respect isn't negotiable in our house and that I'll stand up for them when they are being treated poorly. As for David, he and I actually have a better relationship. Now, he respects the fact that I held his kids accountable. I respect that he supported the lesson they needed to learn. So, there you have it. Sometimes love means setting boundaries. Sometimes being a good parent, or step-parent, means being willing to be the bad guy for a while to teach an important lesson. Was I wrong to change the locks and kick out my stepchildren? Or was it the wake-up call they needed to learn about respect and consequences? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button and subscribe to Read It Visuals. We're building a community here where respect matters and consequences are real. Thanks for watching.